Recently, MOBA streamers Tyler1 of League of Legends and Grubby of Dota 2 agreed to a Warcraft III show match on February 28th. The terms were initially very simple. Grubby would play with one singular hero. Shortly thereafter, as Grubby would put it, Tyler moved the goalpost not once, not twice, but 3 times. Firstly, Tyler adjusted the rule set by saying that Grubby may use the full range of units and heroes, but he instead must play with one hand. T1 then furthered the challenge for Grubby, insisting he must play with his non-dominant left hand only. Lastly, hoping to have hammered the final nail into Grubby's metaphorical coffin, Tyler said it will not be a 1 versus 1 show match, but instead a 3 versus 1. With these restrictions in place, Tyler1 seemed to have set himself up for success. But perhaps this came at the sacrifice of what could have been a victory with the goalpost firmly in its original location. What I mean to say is, I believe Tyler1 could defeat Grubby with the original conditions of playing Grubby with only one hero. As a current ranked number 154 player in the world with a proud career earnings of $124, I like to think of myself as somewhat of an authority on these underdog tales in Warcraft 3. Here's what my game plan would look like if I was preparing for a match such as this. There are 4 races in Warcraft 3 with 4 hero choices from each respective altar. There are also 8 neutral heroes available from the tavern. Although all 24 of these heroes have their strengths and weaknesses, the difficulty of playing with a solo hero lies more in the choice of race than the choice of hero. Undead struggles with healing and creeping, Orc struggles with early game base defense and expanding, and Human, well...
Horrible start for Iffy. Yeah, he's losing units. He's caught GG! Oh, can you believe it? Iffy GG's on map 1 after 3 minutes and 14 seconds.
Night Elf has Moonwells for healing, Ancient Wars for creeping, and they can create an early game wall off to disallow any super oppressive harassment options. They can also build safe trees of life on the map that allow them to uproot and creep when they're ready, instead of having to clear the creeps at an expansion and build the base directly next to the gold mine at an inconvenient time. Of the 4 Night Elf heroes, we can exclude the Bottom of the Moon due to being one of the weaker heroes in the game. From the Tavern, we can exclude Dark Ranger, Pit Lord, Naga, and probably the Alchemist due to lack of utility when played solo, not to mention the Dark Ranger's ultimate would be virtually useless to Grubby with these restraints. That leaves us with 7 hero options: Demon Hunter, Warden, Keeper of the Grove, Firelord, Beastmaster, Panda, and Goblin Tinker. We can further break these heroes down into 2 groups: early game cheese or rush heroes, and late game carry heroes. In order of strength, Firelord, Keeper of the Grove, and Beastmaster would be the cheese or rush heroes that Grubby will attempt to win early in combination with either Ancient Protectors or Ancients of War. Panda, Warden, Demon Hunter, and Goblin Tinker would define as the late game carry heroes. With these, Grubby will attempt to delay the game and reach level 6 or higher with mass Moonwells, expansions, and Ancient Protectors at home. The cheese heroes have the disadvantage of getting weaker the longer the game goes, and the late game carry heroes have the inverse disadvantage of needing time to reach their full potential. The optimal game length for Grubby will not change the fact that he's going to be harassment heavy and try to throw Tyler off his game as much as possible. Every hero has the tools to kill workers, and this will not change no matter what the hero choice or overarching plan of Grubby is. The assumption of many may be some sort of rush strategy. Grubby will only have one low-level hero in the early game. Therefore, some sort of strong rush utilizing the units Tyler1 is available seems like it should be the best option. Night Elf themselves have the classic Priest of the Moon, Huntress, 2-Glaive, Ancient Protector rush, which combines the power of the Tower Rush with early siege units that force an ultimatum between an unfavorable fight and the slow loss of buildings. Undead is the Nerubian Ghoul Tower Rush, which requires only a single tower to completely neuter any hero. A rush so strong that Night Elf players were screaming from the rooftop for a balance patch just 1 year ago. Admittedly, this probably still doesn't work versus Grubby. Human has not only many strong tower rush options, but also the Pally Rifle strategy, which is shown to have the quickest learning curve of any strategy in Warcraft 3 and has boosted players from Bronze to Diamond in a matter of weeks. But Tyler1 plays Orc. As an Orc player myself, I'll at least have the self-awareness to admit there are very strong rush strategies that Orc can pull off. There are Burrow rushes and 2 Barracks Headhunter rushes. There are Farseer Firelord Raider strategies, and although the unbiased part of me wants to say that these strategies would stand a chance, they won't. The best strategy for a world champion is having a complicated, elaborate flowchart which bobs and weaves in reaction to your opponent, something that has room for proactivity to punish a predictable opponent while being safe and consistent enough to account for the unknown. Unfortunately, 2 weeks is not enough time to plan a strategy such as this. What we have to do instead is play so lame as to not allow Grubby any openings. We must be safe against any cheese or rush strategies Grubby has in mind with the previous stated heroes, while also having a clear win condition if the game goes later than this. We must prepare one opening that we can grind out for 2 weeks and get consistent enough to cover all possible options that Grubby is limited to by the fact he has a singular hero. Our first threat of the game would be the 3 Ancient of War rush. This essentially is when a Night Elf pulls 3 wisps from their initial starting 5 and runs them into your base instantly, building 3 Ancient of Wars next to your main. Although this strategy is essentially unheard of at top level, this could be one of Tyler's biggest threats. The Ancient of Wars finish constructing before you have any serious means of base defense, and Grubby could translate this into an advantage big enough to win with a delayed Tavern hero. Our second threat would be the more conservative single Ancient War rush with a standard hero timing. This would mean instead of Grubby using his Ancient War at home to creep his first camp, he would instead build it aggressively at Tyler's base and go for one of the rush heroes. This would be followed up by more Ancients of War, an expansion, Ancient Protectors, or all three. Our third threat would be an all-out Ancient Protector rush. These towers have the advantage of being able to uproot and move forward, so they can be built either secretly in the fog of war or right in front of your base. The general counter to this in Orc vs Night Elf is to consistently scout in several locations on any given map at specific timings, hoping to find the hidden APs. The fourth and most realistic threat, I say realistic only because from Grubby's point of view, it would probably make for the most entertaining match, is the Warden. The Warden is a hero capable of absolutely carrying a game by herself. The combination of Blink plus Fan of Knives can kill dozens of workers in a matter of seconds. And for a beginner player, this would be nearly impossible to deal with. The fifth and final threat is the Panda. The Panda is one of the aforementioned late game heroes and is probably the only hero in the game capable of killing large quantities of towers before reaching level 6. Level 3 Breath of Fire is a fantastic tool and Grubby could use this to break any base and then close the game out with Ancient Protectors. I believe this to be the biggest and most realistic threat to T1 on game day. Our best bet to deal with the first three threats is towers. Lots of towers. Orc's Watchtower has the advantage of being the longest range tower in Warcraft 3, outranging APs and obviously outranging Ancient of Wars. This means with enough static defense at home, we'll have the advantage against any sort of rush Grubby can do because he is unable to build glaive throwers to outrange the Watchtowers. Watchtowers also have the added advantage of helping with defense against hero harassment, whether it be Immolation from a Demon Hunter, Pocket Factory from the Tinker, or the true threats, Warden and the Panda. Towers alone won't help against the final form of the Warden and the Panda, of course. The best short-term counter to the Warden is to have good burrow positioning and always be ready to load up your peons into burrows when the Warden blinks in and tries to Fan of Knives your workers. At best, the Warden will use a Potion of Invulnerability and have 7 seconds to do as much damage as she can before static defenses pile on too much damage for her to stay. 7 seconds of mining is 70 gold, a Potion of Invulnerability is 150 gold, the math checks out I guess. The best short-term counter to the Panda is to spread static defenses, not having too many towers or burrows in one place able to be Breath of Fire down easily. Against any other hero, having towers close together is optimal because they're able to all attack together, and obviously in this scenario there's no threat of Goblin Sappers. But specifically against the Panda, we have to adjust our SimCity to not allow the Panda maximum surface area to Breath of Fire. None of these answers are guarantees. We can always get outplayed or make mistakes, but this is the best we can do with the short amount of time that we have. Now that we've accounted for all aggressive threats, we have to figure out how to be the aggressor ourselves. We have to figure out a win condition. In order to defeat Grubby, we can't just search for a way to survive his hero, we need to find a way to threaten and kill it. The highest single target DPS hero in the game is by far the Blade Master. This happens to be an Orc hero. The longest single target disable for any hero is Hex from the Shadowhunter. This also happens to be an Orc hero. That makes our 2 hero choices quite simple. The Blade Master Shadowhunter combination will be our biggest threat against any single hero. The highest range DPS per supply for Orc is the Troll Berserker, with a DPS of 5.41 per supply before attack upgrades. Ground units have a tendency, however, to be a bit clunky in high numbers and are difficult to control. Wind Riders have a DPS per supply of 5 and are air units, making them much easier to control and focus a single target. Wind Riders also have the Envenom Spears upgrade, which has 4 poison damage per attack to heroes, making Wind Riders 6 DPS per supply before attack upgrades, even surpassing Troll Berserkers. A combination of Blade Master, Shadowhunter, and Wind Riders will be our biggest threat to any single hero. The plan is simple. When we see Grubby's hero, we hex it and right-click it with the entire army of Wind Riders. Even at 50 supply, this will almost kill every single hero in the game. Now that we've dealt with Grubby's hero, whatever it may be, and we've also dealt with any early game cheeses, all we have to worry about is winning the game. To win the game, we're simply going to use Demolishers. Grubby will most likely have a lot of static defenses himself to not die to any early rushes, so it'd be a bad call to dive into his base head first. Instead, we'll use Demolishers to slowly siege down his bases, defending these Demolishers with our Wind Rider army and focusing his hero anytime it gets into range. Grubby's only option will be to use a Potion of Invulnerability and try to snipe the Demolishers. But these potions are limited and 7 seconds is not a lot of time to damage these with anything other than a Panda level 5. We will slowly and arduously kill all of Grubby's expansions, Ancient Protectors, Moonwells, and Ancients of War. To do all this, we'll need lots of gold and a couple of hero levels, so we're going to expand with a bunch of Watchtowers, of course, and we're going to get our heroes to at least level 3 each. Creeping will be easy once we have some Wind Riders, and expanding will be easy because we can simply camp the constructing towers until they get up. Good luck, have fun.